Thank you, Matthew. And I'd like to welcome all the new guests that we have on, especially we're appreciating you, Lynn, for taking the time to address our group here. I know school has started, classes have started, workouts, people are moving in the dorms. So a lot of the former ones who used to join us regularly have been involved doing recruiting calls or helping, the players move into the dorm. So I start off with some history of our game so everyone can embrace the past and appreciate the people that and coaches that have come before us. But first, I always start off with snack tips in case during this session you have to have a snack. So today, my snack tip is this. First of all, it's Taco Tuesday. So I've got organic corn chip dippers from Trader Joe's. They're really yummy, not as salty as the Frito scoops. They go well with guacamole dip or salsa. So if you happen to run over and get your Tuesday tacos, they're delicious. And then after that, to then give you a little sweet tooth here, I have sea salt caramel roca. It's like almond roca, but it has caramel in it. So it's quite delicious. Just little nuggets like this. You can pop in your mouth while you're listening to Lynn speak. And then to drown it all down, I've got BAI. It's antioxidant infusion, and this is our newest flavor. It's Zambia Bing Cherry. It is delicious. I have that in my little Kool-Aid container here. So it's only 10 calories per bottle, only 1 gram of sugar, no artificial sweeteners. They come in different flavors. So coconut, pomegranate, blueberry. And then I also give music tips. So Lynn, in your honor, since you're on, I give CD recommendations. I'm a big music collector. Today I pulled out, now this is really dusty because I haven't listened to this in, gosh, probably a decade. This is Vince Gill, Souvenirs. And it's one of his old CDs, but there's a great song on here called The Heart Won't Lie. It's a duet he does with Reba McEntire. Sometimes life gets in the way. Secondly, because Lynn is from Tennessee, I pulled out Tina Turner. Tina Turner's real name is Anna Mae Bullock. She was born in Nutbush, Tennessee. There's a song called Nutbush City Limits on this, but of course my favorite song is Proud Mary. Some people like to do it rough. Some people like to do it easy. And last CD, just to balance things out, is Najee. This is smooth jazz. He plays the sax and the flute. This one here is Najee plays songs from the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder songs. Some great listening. He also has some guest performers like Sheila E. on percussion, George Duke on the organ and piano. So that's my musical tips for today. All right, so just do with it whatever you want to. So today I'm almost finishing going through the AIAW championships, and I'm talking about the 1981 AIW National Champions. It was Louisiana Tech, a storied program if there ever was one in women's basketball, referred to as La Tech, the Lady Techsters. In 1981, they made it to the Final Four. The Final Four that year was Louisiana Tech defeated USC in the semifinals, and then Tennessee defeated Old Dominion in the other semifinals. And if you remember from last week, Old Dominion had won the 79 and 80 national championships. So Tennessee unseated the two-time defending national champions. And on that team, they had people like Pam Kelly, who was a small power forward, a post player named Janice Lawrence. They had a forward named Deborah Rodman, sister of Dennis Rodman. And of course, someone I'm sure all of you know, Kim Mulkey was the point guard, the quintessential point guard who was, she served as an assistant coach, an associate coach there. They went on to Baylor. So actually she, I think, is the only person to ever win a national championship, number one as a player, number two as an assistant coach, number three as a coach. So she's got some pretty good accolades for her. The program itself is the third best all-time winning percentage in women's basketball. This storied program, they were known for, the head coach who sort of got them started was Sonja Hogue. If some of you have ever had the chance to see or meet Sonja, I know Lynn, you and I have, but Sonja was a flamboyant flair, dressed to the max, blonde, who was very stylish, and she made uniforms in 1972 that put sleeves on the latex uniforms. If you look at some of their old pictures, they started off with sleeves, and that was one of their trademarks. And they actually kept the sleeves on until I think 2000, after Leon Barmore, who took over after Sandra retired, after he retired. And by the way, the current coach is someone named Brooke Store, I think. I'm probably butchering her name, but anyway. So in this program, they have over 1,000 wins in the program. They've won 3 national championships. They have competed in 13 Final Fours. They have 23 Sweet 16 appearances and 27 NCAA appearances. They have 3 winners of the Wade Trophy, which, you know, as I've spoken before, signifies the top women's basketball player in the country. And those Wade Trophy winners were Pam Kelly, Janice Lawrence, and Teresa Weatherspoon. And most of you will know Spoon. Spoon was also inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame in 2019. Played point guard many years in the WNBA, just a real fireball. I loved watching her compete. And so I'm almost to the brink of the last national championship, which I'll go over next week and start the NCAA legends. But before I do that, I do want to take a little break from interrupt our normal program. And first of all, one of our people on the program here, Sandra Von Embrechts. I want to welcome her because she's a UCLA Bruin, but she was the first Dutch woman to play in the WNBA when she played for the Sparks. So Sandra, welcome. Sandra was a 4-year starter at UCLA, 2-time All-Conference, 1,000-point club, one of my very good friends. So I want to give a shout out to her. And then before we get started with Lynn, I want to talk a little about something special. So this is my UCLA face mask that I received. It's got a picture of Paulie Pavilion, but I want to just give a shout out and appreciate Matthew Smith for really starting off this group. He originated this growth mindset group. I met him about 4 years ago when I was in my last year at West LA. He sent me an email. I didn't know him from any of my emails. He just said, hey, I coach at Vista Mar High School. Well, I've never heard of that high school, and it's just down the freeway. He said, can I come by and watch practice? I said, sure. He came by, we met, you know, I introduced him, we walked around, and he, after I retired, he then became an assistant coach at West LA in 2018 and 19. They won the conference title. He was in charge of special situations and all the video needs. He set up this Powerlight Radio 106 celebrity game that they raised $3,000. And he became my travel buddy. Anytime I was going to go to watch a practice or game at UCLA, Pepperdine, Loyola, UC Irvine, you name it, I'd call up Matthew. I'd say, hey, I'm going. Do you want to go? He never said no. He always went with me. So we grabbed our Starbucks. We're on our way. So I really got to know him. And this past year in 2019-20, he was the video intern at UCLA. And he has worked with assistant coach Tasha Brown with all the video scouts. And unlike at Kentucky, where Tony did all the scouts, every assistant has their own video intern. So he's currently also working with Tony Noonan, another assistant coach, when they're going to install a 5-out series this year. And during this past season, Matthew created weekly lineup analysis and team efficiency reports for the staff so they could see what lineups worked best and how efficient they were. He live coded all practices and home games. You know, and I don't want you to think this is a commercial, but I want people to know how hard this guy works. He attended the WBCA convention, a step up, point guard college as an observing coach, USA basketball clinic, anywhere he thought he could better himself. He listened to podcasts and webinars on his way to and from UCLA, his hour commute. He worked Gatorade Performance Academies, which I wore his Gatorade shirt he gave me for his props here. I'm a walking commercial, as you could see. And so I just want all of you to know that Matthew has worked his rear end off for us, and he does it because of his passion. So let's all give him a round of applause. And Matthew, I think your real name is Matthew Naismith. I think you shorten it to Matthew Smith. So with that, I turn the ball over to you, Matthew.
Well, thank you, Coach Matsuhara. That was, if this was the Academy Awards, I would have turned the music on a long time ago to get you off stage. That was way too long, but I appreciate you, and I thank you every week for coming on and doing your thing and just sharing with us. And you are integral, and we love having you on every week. Much
My
appreciated.
pleasure.
Next, I'd like to welcome our very special speaker today. This amazing woman. I mean, I started doing research and I was astounded. She was a head college coach for 25 years. She left Austin Peay, Miami, and Purdue as the winningest coach in program history, all three schools. I was like dumbfounded. She's in 7 different Hall of Fames, probably more. In her 9 seasons at Purdue, she made him a national powerhouse, took him to the NCAA tournament 7 times, averaged just under 23 wins a season, took him to the Final Four in 1994, 4 Sweet 16s. And then she just opened a whole new chapter on her life in 1997 and began coaching professionally with the Portland Power of the ABL. And then promptly was the ABL Coach of the Year, 1998. She and some of my favorite stories I've heard Coach talk about was when she was brought in for Seattle, and they were trying to put together a franchise up there, and her dribble 5.5 miles to, oh my gosh, I hope she talks about some of it. It's hilarious, but she really laid the groundwork for the success that Seattle Storm have had in the beginning. Took them right to the playoffs. And then a championship 2 years later with Ann Donovan after she left, and obviously their continued success. And Super still playing somehow, but then she really took it to a whole nother level with the Indiana Fever. And after 3 years as an assistant, she became head coach in 2008. Promptly took them 7 straight years to the playoffs, 2 finals, almost the 3rd final, and won the WNBA championship in 2012. This woman has done everything there is to do. She's a champion for gender equality, racial equality, and she's just a wonderful person. And she's obviously generous with her most valuable asset, and that's her time. And she's here today, and I'd like to welcome Coach Lin Dunn.
Wow, thank you, Matt. If I need a new agent, I know who to call. Kind words. I want to start out by telling y'all how impressed I am that you're getting together every week and that you're brainstorming and that you're using this time to get better. There have been so many negatives with the COVID pandemic, but one of the positives has been the opportunity for coaches to get together and get better. And so I salute all of you who've taken the time to invest in this. I also am thrilled to be back with my little buddy, Colleen Matsuhara. We had the opportunity to work under Jody Conrad for the gold medal Pan Am Games in 1986. And that was just a wonderful experience. Never have forgotten that. So it's great to see Colleen again. And you talk about somebody that gives back, somebody that's invested in helping others grow. I've never known anybody to ask Colleen for help when she didn't just say, how can I help? So great to see you again, Colleen. My thought today would be, I'm going to jump around and really just give you guys a chance to ask me questions about any particular area. I sent Matt some handouts that he can forward to you, email to you about different aspects of the program. Some of them relate to X's and O's, some of them relate to culture. But you're welcome to take those handouts and redo them any way you want to. If they turn into your school or your logo or however you want to do, I'm a great believer in sharing, just like we steal plays from each other and out of bounds plays and all types of sets. I think we should share intellectual properties too. So feel free to do with those handouts anything you would like to. Let me start by saying that I'm pretty much old school. when I say old school, my mentors, and I want to emphasize to all of you how important it is that you have mentors, how important it is that you have people that you can rely on, and I call them your truth tellers. They will tell you the truth. You know, they will let you know when you're off track. They will let you know when you need to do something different or better. They'll also, you know, pat you on the back. But at the end of the day, you have to have someone around you that you trust and that will tell you the truth. A lot of people won't tell you the truth. And I think it's important that you have mentors. And I've been very fortunate. One of my great mentors, and this will take me way back, is Hubie Brown. I am a Hubie Brown fanatic. If you ever have an opportunity to read any of his books, watch any of his videos, he's just one of the best teachers of the X's and O's that I've ever been around, probably the best. George Raveling has had an impact on my life. Pat Riley's book, The Winner Within, Bill Walsh, The Score Takes Care of Itself. I'm a Bobby Knight person. I've watched all of his films and all of his tapes. So for you young coaches, if you really want to learn and study the game, some of these names that I mentioned, go back and pull up their stuff, pull up their videos, read their books. And I think you need a mentor. You also need to read. Leaders are readers. The best coaches read everything they can find about their craft. Another influence on my life is Dr. Jack Ramsey. If you've ever read his leadership lessons, it's fantastic. Currently, I'm real high on Kevin Eastman, his new book, Why the Best Are the Best. If you're looking for something to read and get better, go get it right now. You can probably get it on Amazon before we get through speaking tonight. You know, I know they're delivering now with drones, so you may have it before you go to bed. I love the term you used a while ago, a growth mindset. So I am a big fan of that book, Mindset. I like Talent Code. And I guess if you were to say, well, Coach, when you die and go to heaven, well, I guess I'm going to heaven. But you can only take one book with you. Wow, what am I going to take? Well, I'm going to take Perfect Practice. And I don't know if you guys have read this book or not. Whenever I work with young coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, whenever I work with anyone that teaches, anyone that coaches, this is the book I say, okay, as we go along, as we work together, we're going to read 2 chapters every time, and we're going to talk about it. And so it's an excellent book if you want to become a great teacher. And I think the best coaches are great teachers. And so I highly recommend this book. And so it's going with me. If I can take 2 more books, I'm going to have to give that some thought. But this is at the top of the list. So if you don't have it, again, go to Amazon. And I don't work for Amazon, but I should. Go online and get that book. So I wanted to give you some background. One of the great things that I've had the opportunity to do, because I've gone into professional basketball, and some of you that are in college and in high school, whatever area you're in, is go to as many different practices as you can go to. Go to high school, go to college, go to pro, go to training camps, and that's had a huge impact on my life, that I have had the opportunity to watch Rick Carlisle, Paul Westphal, Nate McMillan, Larry Bird, Frank Vogel. I've had the opportunity to sit in their practices. I spent 2 weeks with Hubie Brown when he coached the Grizzlies, and sat in on every session of his training camp. And so I was just immersed in the game. So if you can get into it, Mike Krzyzewski, I've been in his practices. I never was able to get in Bobby Knight's, and y'all can imagine why that didn't happen. Yeah. Gene Kay, I sat in a lot of Gene Katie's practices. So get a mentor, read, study. Go to other people's practices. I've been to Muffet McGraw's, I've been to Pat Summit's, I've been to Jody Conrad's, I've been to Teresa Grant's, Chris Weller, just Jim Foster. So every time I go to a practice, whether it's college or pro, I pick something up. I pick up a play, I pick up a tip, I pick up a coaching technique. Now, with the COVID and the pandemic, you may not be able to get into these practices now, but you can probably find video. I have become a platinum member of YouTube, Amazon, and YouTube, because of the access to reading materials and YouTube and all their videos. It is unbelievable the teaching videos that you can find on YouTube. And so you can find old school, modern, the NBA playoffs now, the WNBA playoffs. And I've become a big fan. Another way of growing your knowledge of the game are the clips that are constantly posted on Twitter. Every night, a WNBA last second play or an NBA last second play. How about that last second play in the Celtics game where the Celtics went zone and they skipped the ball all the way over to the other side and nobody's guarding him. So as far as a special situation, Matt, that would be a great one to brainstorm about. You know, what in the world happened? How with so little time did he be allowed to even catch the ball, much less be so wide open? But there's just so many resources now to get better. So that's the challenge. And I love the little cliche, the little quote, when you're through learning, you're through. And so I'm just a lifelong learner. I love the game. I love to study the game. I love to brainstorm about the game. And so if you want to get better, then invest tremendous time and effort into growing your knowledge. Now, I do want to say one thing about the Seattle Storm. I did dribble 5.5 miles through the city of Seattle. And you people on the West Coast, you know what Seattle's like. A lot of people here in Dresden, Tennessee, where I live, they have no concept of what Seattle is like. And I made a commitment to help sell those tickets, and had no idea when I made the commitment that you know, Seattle's full of Mount Rainiers. You know, it about killed me. I'm still recovering from that. But that was a real special time for me to be on the West Coast and to be involved in building that program. But I want to give you a tip. Great players make great coaches. Mm-hmm. Great players make great coaches. When you are able to sign or draft or trade for the top of the top, get out of their way and let them be great players. And I had the wonderful opportunity of drafting Lauren Jackson, probably the best power forward to ever play our game. Unfortunately, she had a lot of injuries and didn't play as many years as she should. And Sue Bird. Sue Bird is, I've got her with John Stockton. I've got her with the great point guards, Steve Nash, that have ever played the game. I remember the night that Gary Payton, when we were practicing in Seattle, and he came in to watch practice, and he was amazed at Sue Bird. I can still get chills at him over there going, oh my gosh, how gifted she was. So trust me, great players make great coaches. A couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I sent this handout to Matt, is people ask me all the time, why are some programs consistently great year after year? Why was Texas with Jody year after year so good? Pat Summit with Tennessee year after year so good. Gino, the Celtics, the Lakers. You know, what are the reasons why these programs are not just good, they are consistently great programs. And I believe these 6 areas are crucial. And it would be fun for us to talk about how you would rank them based on what you think is the most important, because it's really tricky. And when I do this with coaches, rarely do I ever get the same 1 through 6 ranking. But these 6 areas, if you're hitting on all 6 of these, between an 8 and a 10, and 10 is the best, you are consistently going to be exceptionally successful. And I want to, even at a small program, you can look at your program and say, okay, where am I hitting on the things that are going to really matter? And where do I need to focus some? And the first one I've got there is resources. And so you may say, okay, well, Coach, what do you mean? You gave me some money. Well, resources is very important in that your administration supports you. They care about you. They want you to be successful. They are committed to you. They have provided financial resources so that you can hire good assistants, so that you can recruit if it's college. So they have given you the resources. They have given you access to great facilities. You've got a fine locker room. You've got all of the resources to make you the best. You don't have to skimp in that area at all. You don't have to worry about that. You have the resources to travel. You can get on a charter flight. You can get on a bus. So think of how powerful it is to have those resources. So that's a real key factor. Number 2 there, and these are not in any order, is system. The great programs have a solid, sound, consistent system. They know how they want to play offensively. They know how they want to play defensively, and year after year, just think of the systems with the great teams. You know who they are. They're not searching. They already know how they want to play. They already know how they're going to install their system, but they're clear about who they are. It's an identity. Your system is your identity. It's how you will play. And the great programs, the great coaches, if a coach changes and moves to another place, he or she's probably going to install the system that he believes or she believes will be successful. So clear, concise system. This is how we will play. This is who we are. Third thing is talent. Do you have talent? I've not known very many successful, consistent teams that didn't have talent. And so you have to find it. You have to develop it. Do your players get better? Do your players get better? Do your players fit your system? If you're a recruiter, then you're bringing in players. You know what your system is. You know how your head coach wants to play or how you want to play. Do your players fit the system? Are they talented enough to make you better? Are they talented enough to make you better? And then you have to develop that talent. And you have to grow that talent on the court and off the court. So talent is extremely important. Some of you may think, well, that's going to be right at the top of mine. Talent's going to be number 1. And some people will have it there. The next one is powerful. Culture. The great programs, the great consistently successful programs have a strong culture. And a lot of people love that word, but they don't really know what culture is. And so if I were to say, what are your core values? What do you believe in? What do you think is important? And you listed those 5 core values. And I said, okay, now we know what your core values are. Now we know what you value. And then I would say, does your behavior show me your core values? And that's what your culture is all about. If I am watching a team, I see in your behavior your core values. So you have put into action the things that you believe in. And a lot of teams have these wonderful sayings up on the wall, and they got banners, but the standards or the core values have not transferred to their behavior. And so their culture and their core values, there's a disconnect. So if one of your values is, we will work hard 110% all the time. And then when I watch your practice and you don't work hard, then that's when you hear people say, well, they've got some culture issues. So you've got a disconnect. You've got some broken, misleading terms there. So I want to encourage you to be clear about what your core values are and be clear that you are behaving them. They are part of you, your assistants, your players, your support staff. Everybody has to buy into the culture of the program. Everybody. You can't have a few loose screws there. We'll talk about what to do with loose screws in a minute. And then the last one that I've got in the big six, I call them, is the coaches, the leadership. Stable, consistent, strong leadership. And look at the top programs. They don't change coaches every year. They have stability. They have strong leadership. They have coaches that are competent, that are experienced, and that know what they're doing. So think about these 6 things. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about any of these big 6? Because they're powerful. Oh, what? Excuse me, I skipped practice. How did that happen? Because I may have practice at the top. That may be what I rank first. Practice. How do you implement your system? Through practice. How do you show me your culture? Through practice. How do you develop your talent? Through practice. Where do you see your coaches lead? In practice. So I am a big fanatic about the value of practice. And I think great practice makes great teams, and it gives you always a chance for success. So I didn't really leave practice off intentionally, but I came back to it because I value it so much. And when I talk with young coaches, and when I talk with young assistants, and even veterans, I talk to them about, let's talk about your practice. Let's talk about these areas here, but I want to know about your practices. I want to see your practice plans. I want to see your system. I want to know how your practice teaches your system. I want to know how it all comes together. And I want to know how you use your time. And write that word down. If you don't take any word away from me tonight, take the word time, T-I-M-E, time. Nothing is more valuable than your time. What are you doing with your time? Time is a non-renewable resource. Once it's gone forever. Are you maximizing every second that you have in practice and everything that you do? So I'm a big time fanatic in how you're using your time. If I watch you do a drill in practice and you only work on one thing, I'm not going to be happy. You must work on at least 3 things because you've only got 5 minutes and you're going to suck everything you can out of those 5 minutes. So it's all about wise use of your time. What are you doing with your time? And if you're a head coach, it's even more important that you're figuring out every day how you're going to use your time. And under that coach's leadership and stability, the number 1 responsibility of the coach, number 1, is people work. People work. It is your job as a leader and as a coach to connect with everybody on your team, your staff, your assistants, your support staff, your players, your recruits, the parents, the administration. You've got to connect up, you've got to connect down, you've got to connect over. You do the people work. So I challenge you, in order to do that, in order to emphasize how important it is, connection is, and the great leaders connect, the great coaches connect, you're going to have to delegate. You're going to have to delegate. If you find yourself doing something that somebody else could do, then delegate it. Give it away. Give ownership to somebody else. And so I want you to do the things that only you can do. Do the things that only you have to make that call to that player. You have to meet with that player. You have to talk with your AD. You have to do the people work. So I want to emphasize to you how important that is. And so you have to organize your time. You have to organize it weekly, daily, monthly. You have to have a master plan. You have to have a year-round plan. You have to have a master calendar. And you have to use your staff efficiently. I want to hear all about how you delegate, how you give ownership here, here, and here. And you're growing your staff because you are empowering them. You are challenging them to grow in roles that they need to grow in. And that's really, really important. But you have to focus on the people work. Okay, so anybody got any questions about these 6 areas? Anything, Matt, from you?
Hey, Lynn, I have a question.
Okay.
When you go watch these practices, do you also observe to see how those coaches use their staff? And I mean, do you critique that or talk to them about it?
All right, let me tell you something that's really valuable. It's a great question, Colleen, is whenever I go to watch somebody else's practices, I ask if I can sit in on the practice planning meeting. I want to get in there and see how you plan that practice. I want to watch the dynamics of you and your staff. So if you're going to watch a practice, say, is it possible that I could sit in on your meeting? That's big. And professional coaches are really pretty good, both men and women, about letting you sit in on the planning meeting. And so you learn how the staff's used. You learn how a coach plans, that particular day, and it may be that they've already planned the week. You know what I'm saying? And now they're planning the day. But that's a great question. Get in the planning meetings if you can. And yes, I am always watching to see how the assistants are used. Are they standing there holding up the what do you call those things? The rebounding machine or the Dr. Dish or whoever, or are they actively involved in the practice? So if your assistants are not working and teaching and coaching and have ownership of areas, then you're wasting your assistants. You're wasting them. What are they there for? So you've got to decide, how am I going to delegate all of my system? Here's the things that I'm really going to focus on. Here's the things you, assistant, are going to focus on. You're going to focus on. And so we're going to share the teaching. That way the head coach has got a lot more energy, can focus on the areas that are really theirs. Let's say that one of my assistants is in charge of individual defensive fundamentals. That is their baby. Well, then I know it's not going to fall through the crack. I'm the whole picture, and I'm making sure that everything's covered. But I've got to have assistants that are specifically covering areas so that nothing falls through the crack. We might be in a practice planning meeting, and one of my assistants may say, "Coach, we're not doing enough rebounding drills." Great point. Let's make sure this week, we're getting ready for the week 2 of practice. That can't happen. And so, but if I'm trying to remember all of this by myself, it's going to fall through the cracks. So it's really important. And I think the best coaches do that. I've watched Gino's practices, and Lord of mercy, Chris Daly and Shay Ralph, Gino could leave and go play golf and it would be fine. You know what I'm saying? But back to the system. The system is in place. They know what they're going to do. They know when they're going to do it. They know how they're going to do it because they've got everything in place. And I want to say one other thing, Colleen, about practice that you made me think of is once you get your system in and once you get going, you know, as you get ready to start the fall, I'm pulling out all my practices from last fall. I know what I did. Week 1, day 1, week 2. So I'm looking at those practices, and I have every practice I've ever coached. And I've, 20, I don't know how many, 40 years of practices. And I can open my book and look at the first week of practice. Here's what we did. I'm going to stick with what we've done in the past because we've been successful. Now, if we didn't win that year, I may throw that book out. But use your practices from the past if you have put in your system. You know what you're going to work on day 1. You know what you're going to work on day 2. So you asked me a question and I gave you a speech. Yeah, good question.
Oh, great.
Coach, I've got a question,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Dunn.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the differences between how these 6 consistently great items for consistently great programs vary from college to the pro level?
Not much. Not much. I'm convinced with the pro coaches that I know, they still have culture. You know, I think the Golden State Warriors, the Celtics, the Lakers, the great, and I'm not talking about just one championship. I'm talking about we're playing for a championship every year. I think they had all of this. So I think these are important. High school, JUCO, D2, D3, NA. I mean, I think they're big in everything. The biggest thing about the pros in college, the biggest thing, and this is important because the pros, you're working with adults. And so it's a different dynamic. In college, it's like this. I'm up here and here are my players down here. And I'm the mother and they're the children. And, you know, but in the pros, it's like this. It's like going to work at IBM or Apple. You know, we're working as peers. We're working together. And those pros, if you get to the pros, you know your stuff. And if you hang around several years, you really know your stuff. You got a high basketball IQ. You've got a great work ethic. You understand the game. And so if I'm calling a timeout in the pros and we're coming over, I'm saying, look, we're getting hurt in that hard hedge. What kind of 2-man defense do y'all want to go to? I want to know what they think. I value what they think. If Tamika Catching says, Coach, we've got to start switching, then we're switching. So I am listening and asking my pro players for input. Now, it may be that there are some college programs that have gotten to that point. I don't think so. I don't see Gino asking people during the timeout what they want to do. So it may just be the NBA and the WNBA. So that's the big difference in that I'm working with a 25, 30-year-old who knows a lot about the game, who has a tremendous knowledge of the game. You see Sue Bird coaching the Storm on the floor, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker has grown into that role. So your longtime pros, your gifted pros are coaches on the floor. But that's the big difference, how you communicate with each other, how you listen to each other, how you share with each other. But resources, system, talent, culture, leadership from the head coach, and practice. Those practices, those pro practices, they're not as long. They're not as long because the legs don't recover. And that's one of the things that I learned, Matt, when I went to the pros. Those 2 and 3 hour practices that we had in college, they're out the window. They can't do it. They can't recover. A 30-year-old can't do it. So I've got to take what I would do in 2 hours and mesh it into an hour and 15 minutes. And that's when I learned all about multiple drills. Okay, what can I suck out of that 5 minutes? Instead of what took 5 minutes, maybe we do it for 30. Can't do that. So you have to really maximize your time. So those are a couple of things about the pros. But I love the pros. I loved coaching the greatest. I love coaching the best. Lauren Jackson, Sue Bird, Tamika Catchings, Katie Douglas, just all of the great pros that I've coached. And even same in USA basketball with the Olympics and with US national teams. The players work, the plays work a lot better when you've got the best of the best running them. Yeah. Good question.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach Dunn,
Yes.
I have a two-part question. The first question was, when you were an assistant and you were with Indiana, how important was building your relationships with your players then when you transitioned to being the head coach and building that confidence and that trust? The second question would be, you mentioned a Tamika Catchings who came from a Tennessee. When you get a player that comes from a program that you know what comes with it, compared to another player where you really don't know the coach, how different is that in coaching that player, and how different is that with the expectations?
Well, first, let me say this. When I'm drafting players, I'm interested in where they played. Not only am I interested in their talent level, but I want to know where they played and who they played for. Because I know if I get a Pat Summit kid, if I get a Gino Auriemma kid, if I get a Muffet McGraw kid, I know I've been in their practices. I know they're disciplined. I know they're hardworking. And if they've gone all the way through that program, then I know they're going to be a success. You know, and I'm starting to see that with Corey at UCLA, with Kelly at Oregon. You know, Jeff's doing a great job at Louisville. So you're starting to say, hey, wait a minute, that kid plays for so-and-so, and they've been in that system. They've been with stability. They've been in a demanding program. That's already a plus. So I'm looking at players, Tara Vanderveer's players. I know they're going to do great in the pros because of the system and the culture that they've come from. So I'm looking initially at those players, and it matters. It matters because it's a risk if I'm taking a player from a losing program or a disrupted program or a fragmented program. So I'm looking for talent that's coming from a great program. Now, your question about me being an assistant with the Fever is a great question. And it triggers me to tell you something, that my experiences in USA basketball as an assistant coach, I was Teresa Grintz's assistant, Chris Weller's assistant, Jody Conrad's assistant, was very beneficial for me. Because when I started my career at age 21 in 1970, I was the head coach at Austin Peay. And so I had never been an assistant, and I really didn't get it. But those experiences in USA basketball really helped me understand how to be a really good assistant, how to put my ego and myself aside and understand that my job is to connect with these players. I'm the good cop. I'm connecting with these players. I'm not the bad cop. I'm going to diffuse whatever bad cop issues might come up because the head coach is more demanding, more attention to detail, a little harsher. So that was a great experience for me. Now, when I worked for Brian Winters, who was the head coach with the Fever, it was not a good experience for me. It was a tough experience for me, but I learned a lot in that experience because Brian and I did not have the same core values. And so it was the first time that I'd ever worked for someone where we didn't see eye to eye on the system. We didn't see eye to eye on the culture. And it was hard for me. But I had to adapt in that situation and do the best that I could do. Brian is an offensive coach. He has no concept, nothing to do whatsoever with defense. He could care less. So we're not going to spend any time on defense. I come from the defensive background. We have to defend. It matters. It's who we are. And so you can see how we clashed. So that was a really it wasn't a good experience, but it was a great learning experience because I had to figure out how to work with this person and make it work and help the players, or I had to leave. So that was a really interesting learning experience for me. And I adapted and I adjusted, but it was not easy. But I knew my role was to be the good cop, to connect with the players, to be there for them, to be a resource for them, to encourage them. I was also a teacher. I was also giving input into what I thought we needed to do to win, what I thought we needed to do to get better. So sometimes, I guess my point is, sometimes bad experiences are very valuable, are very educational. Don't underestimate the value that might come from something bad.
And you just mentioned something about Brian Winters, by him playing in the NBA. Do you feel that he lacked the understanding of the women's game under the rim and the fundamental value of doing things the right way, as opposed to the athleticism and the talent that guys get away with by making mistakes because they're not great shooters, or they're not great fundamental plays on pick and roll, but they can make up for it because they can get out there long and they have that athleticism?
Brian had not coached in the women's game at all. I don't think Brian understood how gifted the women were, how good they were. And I don't think he understood how good the coaches were. You know, I don't think he thought it was going to be hard at all to just take over and win. And I think he found out quickly that how gifted the players were. He'd underestimated the talent. He'd underestimated the gift, how gifted they were. He'd underestimated the value of defense. You know, we spent all of our time shooting and running plays. Shooting and running plays. And so if we were going to win, we were going to have to win 120 to 119. You know, so it was a learning, I think it was a real learning lesson for him. And he may have taken it for granted. And when Brian coached, we didn't have the defensive 3-second rule either, like they had in the NBA, you know. So we could camp out in the lane. We could clog the lane up. Those driving lanes were not there. So it was an adjustment for him. Brian's a great person. He's a hard worker. He and I just had different values when it comes to what it takes to win. And I believe you have to have balance on offense and defense.
Thank you.
Coach Dunn. Yep.
Yeah.
Coach Dunn. Shelly Sheets here.
Oh, Lord.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And, you know, you should have come to Purdue. You were supposed to come to Purdue. Carried away with the Buffaloes. Oh, my goodness. Okay. What is it, Shelly?
I know, Coach. I just bring up some bad memories for you. I know.
Well, it all turned out good.
Hey, it turned out great for both of us. Absolutely. Absolutely. So my question for you is, I just recently got hired as an assistant coach here at the University of Denver, and starting my 19th season as an assistant coach. Our new head coach is Dosha Woods, who came from Tulane, longtime assistant as well. Known each other for years. We have a lot of the same values. You know, we had to build a program, you know, the culture, practice, you know, all that thing that we see eye to eye. But taking over a program as we are, what would be 3 things that you would focus on from a basketball standpoint of taking over a program as we are?
Okay, so have either one of y'all been a head coach?
No.
Okay, so that sticks in my mind right off the bat, that y'all are both, you're experienced veteran assistants.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately I would be a little concerned about, okay, where are we going to draw on just from head coaching experience?
Mm-hmm.
And it may be that you draw on, she may have a couple of head coaches that she's worked with or played for, and you might too, but I would definitely use those two, or those people. I would, when I said have mentors, you guys need a couple of mentors that are head coaches that can support you as you're now doing something, you know, that you haven't done. And then I would focus on your talent and your system. You know, what kind of talent do we have, and what kind of system can we play with? And once you just can kind of decide those two things, then you can implement your system into your practice. While you're thinking about that on the technical side, you're also deciding what is our culture going to be like. And I don't know, usually if you've got new coaches, well, it could be different things. They may have been losing, or the head coach may have been winning and moved on somewhere else. But you need to decide, this is who we are, this is what we value, and this is how we will play. You know, whatever your culture or your core values are going to be, it needs to be decided. It needs to be discussed with your players, that you need them in. And sometimes coaches like to ask the players, what do you want our core values to be? And that doesn't mean you're going to listen to them, but you want to know what they think. You want to hear it, and then you're going to decide, this is who we are. We believe in hard work. You know, we believe in shooting three. You know, whatever you value, it's clear. And then you put that into practice. You put that into who you are. I can see your culture in practice. I can see how you run and help each other when something happens. I can see how you support each other. You value defense. I can see it in your defensive drills. I can see how much enthusiasm and energy you have in defense. So this culture, talent, your system, and then get that into your practices. That would be my thought. I'm assuming that you got the resources, that you've got the support. You guys are the leaders. So figure out how you're going to play.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I did play for you for the Portland Power. So I did come back. I did come back around.
Had that league not folded, we would have been the ABL champions that year.
Yeah, I tell Katie Smith all the time that we would have beat the Columbus Quest.
And not any doubt about it, you know, and I don't want to hear Brian Agler try to tell us that he was going to win again. That's horseshit. That's not going to happen.
Amen.
I can tell you that. But
Amen.
when I see you, I think about that day we played golf in the rain.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that or not, but from where I'm from, if it's raining, we don't play golf. So when y'all said we're playing 18 holes in the rain, I was not happy. And if you remember, I had mud all over my face. My glasses were covered. Yes. Yeah. I do.
Yeah, that was us, Katie Stedding, Natalie Williams out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, Natalie Williams. Woo! Another great player. Holy moly. Greatest rebounder I've ever seen. Two-sport athlete from UCLA. The volleyball and basketball, All-American in both. Gold medal in the Olympics, Hall of Fame. Woo, she's something else.
Thank you so much, Coach Dunn. Love you.
Any other questions about these six?
Hey, Coach Dunn, I have a question.
Hey.
Hey, we met. This is Jason Pruitt from Wish TV. I did all your promos for the Fever back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah, and then you remember you coached my aunt, Priscilla Buford at Ole Miss.
That's right, I did. Boy, that goes way back.
Yeah, I'm the guy always harassing you for a game.
How can I
Hey,
help you?
So, excuse me?
How can I help you?
Yeah, I got a question. So you're very vocal on social media about social justice.
Yep.
And the things that's going on in the community. And you have no remorse for what you post and what you believe in. So I know where you're from. You know where we're from. Most of the show is Alabama. And I know where you're coaching at now. You know, to some of us in the South would say you're coaching in the biggest Confederate monument that's still standing. So how are you navigating your team through this, through your core values? How are you navigating them through these times?
What a great question. And you know, I think it's important for me to say this, that I've always been a disruptor. You know, this is my 50th year, and I've always ruffled feathers, rocked the boat, in particular, women's rights, women's opportunities, equality, pay, racism. That's kind of been who I've been. I have not been as vocal in the past. And to be honest with you, I regret that I haven't. I mean, I've been vocal enough and a boat rocker enough to be fired 3 different times because I rocked the boat and took a stand. But I think most recently, what is happening in our country, it's not random comments. There are consistent people from all walks of life being extremely vocal about what is right and what is wrong. And I'm in a particular place in my life. If you want to fire me, fire me. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a 30-year-old that's worried about how I'm going to pay my bills. So you can't hurt me. And so I think because I'm in that particular time in my life, that I have no fear of recriminations. You don't like what I'm saying? Don't listen. You don't like what I say on Twitter or Facebook? Don't follow me. You know what I'm saying? So I feel strongly that at this moment in time, we must speak out, and we must continue to speak out. I coached at Ole Miss, and it was a bad time to coach at Ole Miss back in the 70s. And I was told that I could only have 2 blacks on the team at one time, and I knew I'm not going to last here. And I barely lasted to the end of the season before I got booted out the door. You know, but I'm proud that I said, no, this is not right. But I think what happened to George Floyd, what's happened to a lot of these women that have been murdered, there's an awareness and an awakening in our country, and I'm so afraid that we won't take advantage of it. We cannot miss this opportunity. We have to continue to speak out. We have to continue to talk about it. And I think personally, we know the biggest problem is the leadership in DC. You know, we don't have the right leadership up there. We don't have the right people that want racism and all of the things, systemic racism that are just horrific to be addressed. So I hope women, I hope men, I hope everybody has the courage. And this is a time of courage. It takes courage to speak up. In my town here in little West Tennessee, I'm surrounded by racists. I know I am, but I don't care. This is what I think. This is what I believe. And it's time for you to address some of your built-in biases. And so that's where I am right now. And I'm so excited about some of the coaches, men, women, college, pro, that are taking a stand, that are speaking up, and that are not afraid.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Hey, Lynn, do you have on a Biden-Harris t-shirt tonight?
I don't have, my t-shirts have not come.
Okay.
I have them, they're on the way. I thought they would be here in time. I do have my Black Lives Matter t-shirts, and I have my Biden flag and my Biden sign out in the car, but I have them close to the house, otherwise somebody will steal them. So I am prepared.
Just
any other questions from those 6 things that we were talking about?
no, but I want to know who's the author of Practice Perfect.
Lemov, L-E-M-O-V. I can't believe I found a book that you hadn't read, Colleen.
No, but I have the Kevin Eastman one.
Doug, L-E-M-O-V.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, Matt, do we want to talk a little bit? I don't know what, I hadn't even looked at the time. Do we want to talk anything about special situations? I know that's an area you love, and I'm happy to take any questions. I think I sent you that handout.
Yep, I'll put that up right now. That's a great idea. Here we go.
You know, that's one of my areas. I love that area. That's, I love special situations. I don't think people take advantage of all of the special situations that are going on in practice and in a game. And so I'm a big believer in being prepared for special situations. I may have some areas that other people don't consider special situations, like the start of the game. You know, of course, the jump ball, offense and defense is a special situation. You know, is it an offensive jump ball or is it a defensive jump ball? How are you going to start the game? And I think starting the game is important. I think if you can get off to a good start, if you can get a good shot, or if you can even score, it's really important. What bothers me sometimes is to watch a team and the game starts and they look over at the bench at the coach like, well, what are we running? And I'm like, well, if you're doing that, you don't know how to start the game. You're not ready to start the game. And so I think the first play of the game, the first couple of possessions, you should have an offensive plan, and then you can play on. But I think you need a play to start the game, and I think you need to be clear how you're going to start the game defensively. So that's an area I don't think enough time spent on. I personally like to run an on-ball screen really early in the game and find out how you're defending the on-ball screen. I want to know pretty quick how you're defending an on-ball, and then now I can figure out how to exploit it. Whatever you're doing, now I know what I'm going to do. So that goes back to each quarter. Each quarter, as you come out and start the next quarter, how are you starting the game offensively? How are you starting the game defensively? And so that has to have taken place in the timeouts. Those timeouts are gold. And so I think timeouts need to be organized. I think they need to be planned. Who speaks? When do you speak? Now, the 20-second one's different, but the full ones and the time between the quarters need to be planned. They need to be decided. And when they leave that time, when they leave that huddle to start the second quarter, they know exactly what they're doing. There's not any looking over and wondering and all that kind of stuff. So I'm also a great believer in knowing what you're going to do at the end of each quarter. What is your plan to end the quarter? You have the possession of the ball. You have the last shot. I like the last shot, no shot philosophy that I got in the pros. I want the last shot. I don't want you to hit a three or some great wild shot and carry momentum into the quarter or into the half. So if I have the ball, I'm looking for the last shot or no shot, and I'm going to hold the ball, and I have a play. I know what I'm running. I have a quick hitter. Let's talk about quick hitters a second. I believe you need a package of quick hitters. And somebody asked me the other day, well, what is a quick hitter? So don't just assume that every coach knows what a quick hitter is. A quick hitter is a specific shot for a specific person in a specific spot. It's not random. It's not running, we ran flex for 15 seconds and then we got an open shot. It's a specific shot for a specific person, and you like to get it in their spot. Now, that doesn't mean that person might not kick it to somebody else, but that's what you're looking for. And most quick hitters are one or two passes. So I like a package of quick hitters that I can use. I can use them to start the quarter. I could use a quick hitter to end the quarter. I can use them at the end of the game. I might have a quick hitter that I use for a low shot clock. Some people call that a finisher. So I really spend some time investing in my quick hit package and thinking about, okay, how am I going to use them and when would they be good to use? Obviously, two areas that have some interest are after timeouts. What am I doing offensively and defensively coming out of the timeout? If it's an offensive timeout, what am I running when I come out? If it happens to be a defensive, this is a great time to change defenses. We may change our two-man scheme. We may go to zone. But I'm making adjustments during a dead period. That's what after timeouts are. What are my, that's a special situation. And you can tell. I can watch games. I can watch a pro game or a college game, and I can tell you what teams are good after timeouts and what teams are good after free throws. What are we running after the free throw? Defensively, are we pressing? Are we trapping? This is a short period of dead period where you can communicate with your team. And then same with your offense. Same with your team offensively. What are you running after a free throw? You know, are you expecting a press? Is your press breaker? Or maybe you're not. Now you set up a play. You huddled up there at the free throw line, and you know what you're running. And then to me, baseline out of bounds and sideline out of bounds, the clock stops. It's a dead ball situation. This is a special situation. What are you running? You know, can you get a 2? Can you get a 3? Can you defend? Can you defend bobs and sobs? Our goal in the pros was we're going to get 2 5-second calls every game. You're not going to get the ball in twice because we value that so much. It's a turnover. It's a morale thing. So you have to invest time into these areas. And you know, we could spend a whole hour and a half just talking about bobs and the sets we're going to use and who's going to inbound and the counters and do they work against man? Do they work against zone? You know, that type thing. And so just being prepared for whatever you might see with bobs and sobs. And then a foul to give. That's something that, of course, I learned in the pros, how to take a foul. We've got a foul to give. I'm not letting somebody break away and hit a wide open layup, but you have to practice it. Players don't know how to take a foul. And maybe you don't have a foul to give, but you need to intentionally foul. Can you do it without them calling a flagrant? Now, the 2 for 1, a lot of people get carried away with the 2 for 1. I'm not as big of a fan investing quality time because I don't think you get enough opportunities. So if I was going to save some time, that would be the area that I say, okay, we don't have time to work on 2 for 1s. And then I'm just sharing that with you. What if you're behind at the end and you have to score quick? You know what? And you have to trap, and you have to press. Do you have a plan to get back in the ball game? And then most people think that special situations are these last 2 things. What are we doing at the end of the game? You know, last minute, timeouts, we can move it, we can't move it, offensively, defensively. And the interesting thing is a lot of people spend time on in-game offensive situations, but they don't spend time on in-game defensive situation. And so I think you have to be prepared for both. And you have to be prepared for being ahead. And you have to be prepared for being tied. And you also have to be prepared for how much time is on the clock. And you have to have actions that will work against man or zone. Let's say you take a timeout, you move it, you come out, you got a great play, and they've gone into some type of a jump defense. You know, so I love this term of I've got my magic package. And so I've got my in-game in-game plays, and I call them my magic plays. And we've got 4 or 5 plays that come out of one particular set, and they're going to work against man or zone. And they've got a couple of actions, a couple of counters, and we practice them. And we play make it, take it magic games, mix up the times, and we get comfortable at it. So the other thing I'll mention here is you watch on TV, say, oh boy, he drew up or she drew up an unbelievable play. The Storm drew one up the other night, and Jewel Lloyd hit a 3 in the corner and to win the ball game. And it was just amazing. They practiced that. They practiced that play. That's why it looked so good. And that's why it was so pretty. And that's why everybody was where they were supposed to be. They invest time in special situations. And guess what? Take it in game. Little mini games are fun. They're competitive. They're fun. You want to get your players all fired up. Let's play some mini games. So, and then that last point there, blend special situations into every practice. And so I think you should have some in the beginning of practice, in the middle of the practice, you know, at the end of the practice. And you may say, well, Coach, I don't know, what do you mean? And I say, okay, we just finished a shell drill, get a drink of water, and now 14 seconds on the clock. Both teams have one timeout, it's tied up. Blue, you're shooting a free throw. Here we go. And I like to let my assistants coach one team and assistant coach the other team, and we play it out. It's live, it's fun, it's exciting. And then maybe, you know, another 30 minutes down the practice, we'll do, okay, it's 3 seconds left, inline out of bounds play. You're down 1. Here we go. And so it's exciting and it's fun. And so I've blended in some little mini games that don't take any time throughout the practice. And I think that has tremendous value. Once again, I learned that in the pros. So, questions about special situations?
So
I've got
Lynn,
one.
when you're practicing, do you have the starters all on one team, the special situations? When you said that one assistant coach takes it?
Great question. Sometimes I have the starters together. Sometimes we have them blended. 2 equal teams. Because you know what happens at the end of the ball game. By now, somebody's fouled out or somebody's not playing well, and we've had some subs. So I think you need to practice mixed. You need to practice them together, the starters together, and then you need to practice them mixed. Mm-hmm. Don't underestimate the value of practicing them mixed. Mm-hmm. And make sure you have a backup inbounder. Let's say that you're starting three always inbounds on the end and the side. You know, who's your backup? Who's your backup inbounder?
I don't know if you've seen her before.
Mm-hmm. So that's important. You have a backup inbounder.
She's amazing. She's amazing. She's the coach in the WNBA. She's amazing.
Everybody,
like
please mute.
Oh.
Y'all mute. I can hear you talking about me back there in the back.
Coach, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. You wouldn't believe some of the things I've heard.
Coach Dunn, I got. Go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, Coach Dunn, would you ever practice anything or do anything in the game that you haven't practiced, so far as special situations?
That's a great question. I would hope not, but I'm on. Hey, after 25 years of coaching, I might feel like I could wing it, or counter it or critique, something like that. But I like to be prepared, and I like to kind of have an outline of what I'm doing. To do something totally different would be not who I am. Now, I might try something if, let's say, a star player on the other team just picked up their 4th foul. I might try to isolate them over there on the wing and take them one-on-one, and we hadn't practiced that, or we hadn't practiced that in a while. But I like to try to I don't like to do that to my players. I think through repetition, through just doing things over and over and making players aware that they just execute better. I'm not saying
Coach,
I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't want to do it.
Definitely.
Coach Dunn, you mentioned special situations. So if it was, for example, I was at a Clipper practice with Coach Matsuhara, and defensively, they talked about defending Kevin Durant back when he was with OKC. Mm-hmm. And their philosophy was, you can't defend everyone, but you rotate to get people in the worst positions that you possibly can. So, for example, say you're in a late game situation and you're on a pick and roll situation. Are you more inclined to cover the person rolling to the basket or jump shooter, no matter who they are? So in other words, you know, it's 2 seconds, 3 seconds left in the game, and you know you have a great shooter, you know you have a great post player. Are you more inclined to focus on the jump shooter, or are you more inclined to focus on the post roll into the basket?
Well, I would probably first focus on the high percentage shot. If it's a great post player that's rolling to the rim and the chances of them hitting that shot, you know, I'm going to try to disrupt that. But you know, that jump shooter, you know, philosophically, we'd rather somebody take a jump shot now than a three. So,
Yeah.
I would be more scared about that three, you know, than I would a jump shooter. So, you know, well, somebody like the star defense, and I think that's another special situation. It's not on my list there, but I think you have to think about how are we going to defend the star, not only during the game, but in the in-game situations. In in-game situations, you notice a lot of time the stars get trapped. You know, James Harden's going to get trapped. LeBron's going to get trapped. And it's not the star that takes the shot, it's who the star gets the ball to. And so I'm a real big fan of making the star give the ball up to somebody else at the end.
Coach Dunn.
Let me ask y'all something. Did all of y'all see that play with the Celtics the other night where they went zone and they skipped the ball all the way across to the corner and he shot the wide open three to win the ball game? And so that's become real controversial, and different people were asking about different things. And to be honest with you, I was surprised that Brad Stevens went zone. In that, what was it, 0.8 of a second or something?
Yeah.
I would never, me personally, I'm not going zone in that situation, because what happened is they got confused about who had who, as you can in a zone. And one thing about man-to-man, it's pretty clear who you've got, and even if you're contact switching. And so imagine if you'd been tight, that pass is not going over there, you know. So that was an interesting in-game situation. Yeah.
And Coach Dunn, I think we talk as coaches is putting people in good situations to be successful. Taco Fall had not been in the game. He put a 7'6" guy on the ball, and all his focus is, because his basketball IQ is to defend the ball. So he wasn't looking for rotations. Nobody was looking for rotations, and that allowed that to happen, especially off the screens.
Right, but I think it looked like they weren't clear who they had, and I love the big guy up on the ball, because you know there's only going to be one pass, and whenever there's a pass situation, you know you can put somebody up on the ball like that, and you don't have to worry about down there. But the fact that the rest of them weren't sure, there was two guys guarding one person, and so that's what bothered me. Is that's the only thing that scares me about a zone. You know, that there's some not sure about who has who. But I love the big guy. I saw somebody, I don't know if y'all have seen this or not, somebody was inbounding the ball underneath the basket, and they put two people on the inbounder. Two great big people just like that, and sandwiched them, and they couldn't see. And I can't remember if I saw that in college or pro, but I thought, no, that's real creative.
Yeah.
Coach Dunn, I got a question for you. This came up when Coach Mitty was on 2 weeks ago, but if you have the ball and it's a tie game and you're going to take the last shot, how much time are you coaching your player to be on the clock as it's released, their shot?
How far down will I let it go?
You have the ball and 10 seconds left, and you control when you release it. How much time are you coaching your player for there to be when she releases the ball?
I'm getting it down just as far as I can get it down, because with the time now, if they don't have a timeout, that's different. But let's assume they have a timeout. Hey, 3, 2, I'm taking that shot, because 0.8 of a second. I've seen 2 games now won with 0.8 of a second. one. And so the lower I can get it down there, the better. So I'm holding it. I mean, I'm holding it. Never go early. And I see it happen all the time about the players get antsy and they go early. Now let's talk about that situation. What are you doing defensively? Are you just gonna hope for the best, or is this the time that you're gonna run trap that person because they're standing there holding the ball? You know, have you practiced? Okay, let's come from the backside and let's trap this person, and now they have to swing it. You know, have you practiced defensively? They know what they're going to do offensively. Now, here's the question I have. Are you going to set an on ball? Are you going to bring a defender for that last second play because you know now you've got two defenders there, or are you going to space out and do something where you penetrate, you know what I'm saying, and I think that's the question I'm seeing lately is, hey, you bring another defender up there, now you've got the possibility of being trapped. You've got it's congested. So are you sure you want to end with that on ball?
Yeah, good question. Good point.
That's a good one. Whew.
Any other questions for Coach Dunn on the special situations? Come on, guys.
Can your players miss a free throw intentionally? Who was it the other night? Somebody had to miss a free throw intentionally. Didn't do it. I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was WNBA or NBA. They needed the ball or something. I can't remember. Oh, no, it was Seattle. Seattle, you know, they hit the free throw and they call the timeout, and now they're up 2 and they move the ball with 0.8 of a second. But if she missed the free throw, and so the big question was, should she have intentionally missed that free throw? They're ahead, the clock starts. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a special situation. Didn't it happen in one of the NCAA college games not too long ago where somebody had to miss a free throw, but then it became a cluster and you know they called a foul or something. So I hate to miss a free throw intentionally because I never know what the referees are going to do. Are they going to call a foul? Are they going to do something crazy? But it makes sense. If I miss that free throw, the clock starts, game's over.
Right. Well, I've seen somebody try to miss a free throw and they shoot an air ball.
Clock doesn't start, nothing happens. But let me tell you something. There's an art to practicing that.
Yeah,
there is an art to being able to miss the free throw. I don't know. Okay, guys, anything else y'all want to ask me before we go?
Hey, Lynn, who are you picking to win the WNBA title this year?
Well, I'm going to have to go with Seattle. I just think they're good. And let me tell you something. Gary Kloppenberg is my selection for Coach of the Year. And everybody says, oh, well, you have to look at all that talent. He's an assistant coach. Dan Hughes can't be in the bubble because he's recovering. You know, he had cancer. So Gary's had to take over this team with enormous talent. But still, you've got egos, and you've got Sue coming back from injury and Brianna coming back from injury. And so he's doing a great job. But he is a defensive coach. Attention to detail, defense. And then the offensive system, it's the same system that won a championship 2 or 3 years ago. The system is in place.
Is that Dan Hughes' system then? That Gary's using?
It's Dan's.
Okay.
It's Dan. And Dan's drawn a little bit from some other people. You know, a lot of people are playing 5 out now.
Yeah.
You don't see the first post run into the rim anymore. The first post is run into the high pinch post area, and we're doing dribble handoffs, and we're cutting, and we're open. That lane is wide open. And if somebody rolls down to the block to post up, it's come off of an action, a dribble handoff, roll down. But that old power game, remember when we used to have a double low post?
Yeah.
Pat Summit and Jody Conrad used to have 2 posts down there on the block.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's no posts down there. We got all kind of ways to cut and drive, and so that's how the game has evolved. And that I think Seattle's done a really good job because all of their players can shoot the three. They're playing some positional basketball.
Mhm.
Hey, Brianna Stewart can play every position.
Right.
So that's the growth. What do you see in the men's game?
Yeah.
Who runs to the block in the men's game?
Mhm.
I can't think of anybody. Can you?
Not offhand.
Those big European guys
Yeah.
are the best shooters in the league.
The Denver guy was killing the Clippers yesterday. Jokic or Jokic?
Jokic.
Yeah.
What,
He was killing them on the threes. But
Yeah.
Lynn, I know before anyone maybe gets a question in, I did have a message from Shelly Sheets. She thanked you for being on the call. Sorry she didn't come to play for you at Purdue, but she had to take a Zoom call at 7:15.
Well, I loved coaching Shelly Sheets. She was a great guard, great point guard. I'm glad to know that she's still coaching and she's still in the game.
Yeah.
Well, Coach Dunn, I can't thank you enough for being so generous with your time and your knowledge and sharing with us. And I did want to mention to everyone, Coach Dunn has sent me about 6 different handouts on different really good information. And she said to share. So please message me and I'll send those off to you. And the ones we went over, obviously the special situations and the parts of the program, but also there's some other really good ones about being a head coach, all the things you need. There's some really good information. So love to share that. But Coach Dunn, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And be sure and take those handouts and redo them and let them be yours. You know, just take them. I'm sure I stole them from somebody. So you're welcome to them. And I think they're all extremely valuable.
Thank you, Lynn. It's been great seeing you again.
Great to see you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Coach, thank you. This was amazing. Thank you.
Absolute honor.